Hi, everybody. I'm Leslie. This is going to be a nice flowing practice that puts together a lot of foundational poses and transitions that are common to a lot of yoga classes. I'm going to be teaching from the floor and from blocks, but there might be times when it's going to work better for you to go to a chair seat. So maybe have a chair seat or a chair nearby to your mat. You'll also want a blanket. This practice is going to be active, but doable, nothing complicated. So expect that you might get warm, but we'll keep it foundational. All right? Start by coming to the top of your mat space, standing in Tadasana, feet hip distance apart. And try to find a little rhythm with your breath here, using your inhales to reach up. Bring your palms together to exhale down. Do a couple more like that. You're welcome to have your eyes closed here, and definitely to be moving at a different pace than me, or even your own self the last time you practiced. All right, with this inhale, sit down into a chair. You could reach up or forward, check in with your shoulders, send weight back into your heels, and let your thighs start to heat up. When you feel another exhale about to come, gently lift your hips, tumble your upper body down, touching to your shins or perhaps the floor. And then crouch all the way, crawling into a table pose. Once you land in table, press with your fingerprints, lift your thumbs, and with straight elbows, peel the heel of your palm up and place it back down. We're going to do a bunch of these. Remember that the heel of your palm is the bottom of your palm, right above your wrist. And we're sending weight into the knuckles at the top of your palm, where your fingers begin. Try a couple more, maybe building some fatigue in the muscles that surround your wrist. And that fatigue is just telling you that your muscles have done some good work. And that's what we're aiming for. Last one. Lower nice and slow. Transfer down onto your forearms, placing your elbows under your shoulders, and either step back with toes tucked or crawl back with knees down for your version of forearm plank. Here in your forearm plank, try a little bit of pelvis tilting. Perk your tail up, and then scoop your tail to reach to the back of your knees, feeling what that brings to your lower back. And then hone in on where you feel nice long reach and breadth across your low back. Push from your armpits down into your elbows. Extend that push right down into your forearms and hands. Draw your shoulders away from your ears and reach long back through your heels, forward through your head. One more breath. If your knees are up, bring them down. Transfer onto your hands, tuck your toes and lift your knees into a little crouch and hop, 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 or walk your feet to the top of your mat. Shift again into your heels. Wait for an inhale. When it comes, rise up, reach up. With your exhale, trace your palms down. Let's do 2 more sun breaths. Inhaling up. Exhaling down when you're ready. One more like that. Feel your feet solid on the ground. And with your next inhale, sit once again into chair. Heavy heels. Bring your fingertips all together like you're making a Mr. Burns posture, and bring your thumb tips to touch your sternum. Gently, energetically, draw your feet and inner thighs towards one another. They might not move, but make that feeling of hugging. See through an inhale. On your next exhale, turn towards your right, through your torso and through your neck. For 1 breath, reach your arms long, right arm back, left arm forward. Gather them back in. Come back through center. Take a breath here. On your next exhale, rotate to the left. First through your torso, then through your neck. Finally, reach your arms broad, left arm back, right arm forward. Gather your hands back in, untwist, and tip into a forward fold. Knees coming some amount straight. If you feel a lot of tension up the back of your body, then you might give yourself a bit more grace there and bend your knees a lot. Crawl right down, hands to the floor. Return to table pose. Energize your hands to grip the mat. Press from your armpits down into your palms. Tuck your toes and hover your knees off the ground. I'm gonna let this hovering table run for about a minute. That's a capacity you might be working towards, so nothing wrong with putting your knees down when you need to. So with your knees up or down and your elbows straight, sink your rib basket down between your arms to pinch your shoulder blades together, and then hover your rib basket up away from the floor, wrapping your shoulder blades towards the outsides of your rib basket. Let's do that a couple more times. Really building some full body heat in this shape. As you push up and away from the ground again, just a couple breaths to step back to plank. You might be on knees here. And then do lift your knees and walk all the way forward. Plant your feet at least as wide as your hips. Check in with your breath rhythm. Ease into your heels, rise up, reach up. Exhale down. Bring your hands to your hips with your index fingers in the front of your hip creases. Put some slack in the back line of your body by bending your knees. And with a contained torso, no back bend, no rounding here, hinge at your hips, coming into your version of a half forward fold. Check for the inward curve in your low back. You might be a little bit more upright or have more bend in your knees. You might have straighter knees and be more horizontal to the floor. Whatever shape your half forward fold is taking, reach your arms out wide to the left and right, just staying at shoulder level. Rotate the length of your arms to turn your thumbs up to the ceiling. And then without changing anything through your spine, reach your arms forward, extending the line of your spine. Notice if your ribs have started to flare towards the ground here, snuggle those front ribs up into your body. Keeping everything else the same, float or swim between that T position, arms wide, and then that straight ahead reach. Kind of like your arms are two giant windshield wipers. You're just clearing the space around your upper body. We're going to go for some lunges next. As you reach forward again, allow your spine to round, curl towards the floor, and touch down to your chair seat, your blocks, or the ground. Leave your right foot forward, step back with your left, find that wide stance, at least as wide as your hips, and a nice long stance to stack your front knee over your front ankle. Draw your feet towards one another, wrap your right hip back in space, and with a light touch in your hands, reach the top of your head forward. Take a breath here. With your next inhale, step your left foot forward, switch, right foot back. Settle into your stance. There's always time to wiggle your feet around and get to the right spot. Once you're in that spot, traction your feet towards each other, firm your bum, wrap your left hip back in space. Let's add a little nuance to the upper body here. Think of drawing your ribs up in from the front of your body, and then add that shoulder roll and head butt forward. Tune into your breath rhythm. On an inhale, switch again, right foot forward, left foot back. As you land, add that intentional tension in your lower body. Shift weight into your left hand, bring your right hand to your thigh. Become aware of your left inner ankle. Draw it into the center line. Pull up from that point to reach your head forward. Take an inhale here. On your exhale, spin your belly and chest to the right. If it's feeling real squishy in there, you can use your right hand to lift your belly and then reach your right arm up. Roll your shoulders away here. Press back through your left heel, forward through your head. When you feel an inhale come, unwind, touch down to your block chair or floor, switch. As you step back, settle into your lunge shape. Draw intensity up from your feet into your hips. Shift into your left hand and take your, shift into your right hand. Take your left hand to your thigh. Take a moment to get settled here. Drawing up from your inner right ankle, all the way up your inner thigh. Reach out the top of your head. When you feel an exhale come, turn to the left, then reach up. Take a moment to become aware, especially of your bottom shoulder. Roll it back and away from your right ear. Next, inhale, unwind, step forward, and just set your blocks aside. Crawl down to the floor again, back into table pose. Let's say hi to our spines now that we're getting a little bit warm. When you feel an inhale come, reach your tail to the sky. Draw your chest forward between your arms. And with a little tuck in your chin, drive the top of your head up and forward. Let's stay for a breath here in cow pose. When you feel another exhale come, do the opposite. Round your tail down, tuck your chin, point the top of your head down, and arc your spine up towards the ceiling. Let's stay for a breath here. Let that go, transfer down onto your forearms. You might feel powerful clasping your hands or interlacing your fingers. You get to choose what you want to do there. Bend your right knee so that your heel squeezes to your bum. Shift weight a little bit into the left limbs and swoop your right leg up to the right. Lift it as high as it can and press down through both forearms. Keeping your heel squeezing to your bum, swoop your kneecap to point at the floor, and then up and out to the right. Let's repeat that a few times. This pose is called fire hydrant. So you might imagine yourself to be a tiny dog on a big fire hydrant. Lift that leg. One more lift. We're going to hold. If you're looking for an opportunity to make things a little spicy, you might try kicking your leg out straight for a moment, then bring it back in, knee down. If your hands are clasped or interlaced, switch. Shift into the right side, pull your left heel to your bum, and try that same fire hydrant move. Imagine that there's a little laser pointer on your left kneecap. Start with it pointing at the ground, and then trace a line straight up and out to the left. So one or two more times. And then when you're lifted again, let's hold. Keep pushing with both arms. Keep breathing. Option to do a big kick. Woo! Bring that back in. Knee down. Come back up onto your hands, separating them shoulder distance apart. Walk your knees back and tuck your toes. Come into a hovering position, just knees off the ground, and then drive your arms forward, lift your hips up, perhaps straightening your knees a touch. First downward dog. Sometimes in our first downward dog of a practice, it's nice to pedal out the legs, so you can try putting one heel towards the floor as you bend the opposite knee. And from here, we're going to step into lunges. You might be putting your knees down first and then stepping your foot forward, or you might be stepping from downward dog. You've got time to make the choice that is appropriate for you. When you're ready, step your right foot up towards the top of your mat. pretty much replacing your right hand. Crawl up your front thigh, coming to high lunge, reach up. Just like in our low lunges, pull your legs in, and from that sturdiness in your lower body, lengthen up the sides of your body and out through your fingertips. Catch a ride on your next exhale, back down, return to downward dog. Take a breath here. We're gonna step left foot forward next. Bring it to replace your left hand. Slowly crawl up. Swoop your arms wide to reach high. About 2 or 3 breaths here. Dive down. You might be touching to chair, blocks, or floor here. Step your back foot forward. Touch the front of your shins. Rise up halfway. Exhale the rest of the way down to forward fold. Then rise up tall. Let's keep moving. Inhale, reach up. Soften your knees, fold down, touching whatever's going to make sense. Step your right foot back, and then spin on the ball of your foot to drop your heel in and down. Press into your left heel and windmill your whole body up, landing in a warrior two. Know that you can adjust your foot stance here once you've arrived in the upright position. Bend into your left knee, stacking it over your ankle. Gaze out over your left fingertips. Take a breath. When your next inhale comes, drop your right arm, lift your left arm to the ceiling. Reach tall along the left side of your body. Return to warrior two. Go the opposite way. Drop your left elbow to your thigh. Reach your right arm alongside your head, palm facing the floor for extended side angle. Let's float back and forth between these options. Visiting warrior two. Dropping your back arm, reaching up, exalted warrior. Back through warrior two. Dipping down to rest on your elbow, extended side angle. One more time. This time as you tip forward, pick your back heel up, spin towards the floor, step your back foot forward. Between sides, stand all the way tall. Palms down through center. Use a sun breath to get ready for forward fold, reaching up. Waterfall down. This time step your left foot back. Spin on the ball of your foot, bringing your heel down. Use the power of your right heel pressing to drive your rise back up. Settle in. Gazing out over your right fingertips this time. And then, now that you know where we're going, you might take your time and explore these poses at a way more customized pace to what you're sensing and what you're curious about. See if you can keep your lower body fairly steady, no matter what your upper body is doing in these shapes. Keeping that knee bend in your front knee the same. On your next dip towards your right thigh, pick your left heel up, spin towards the floor. This time, step your front foot back, and then right away, bring your knees down. Take a long stance for a knee plank. Push into your hands and ease your hips back. They don't have to come to your heels. This is not going to be a child's pose. Press down with your hands. And from the back of this position, start to curl your tail down, rounding your spine, just like you do in cat pose. And then when you reach the limit of your rounding, push your body forward, bringing your shoulders over your wrists. Allow your hips to sink a little bit. Lift your chin, lift your gaze, let your heart come through. Let's reverse from here. First by tucking the chin, then round through your upper back. Continue that rounding. Push yourself towards the back of your mat. Let your tail lift at the very end. Let's go back and forth in this spinal wave. Curling tail down, rounding to come forward, landing in a long spine or maybe a gentle back bend. And then rounding on the way back again, but leading with your chin tuck. Later in class, we're going to have an opportunity to either repeat this or intensify. So make a little touchstone in your mind right now for how this feels. As you come forward again, pause with your shoulders over your wrists, grip the ground, pull your mat apart, and keeping a straight line from shoulders to hips to knees, lower your whole body by bending your elbows. As you land, point your toes, intensify the muscle action in your legs, give your shoulders a preparatory roll, and with just a light touch in your hands, use your inhale to lift your chest up, and exhale to soften down. Let's do 4 more like that. Lifting into baby cobra with in-breath, softening to rest with out-breath. All the while, keeping the intensity in your legs, a firmness in your bum, and the urge to press your pubic bone towards or into the floor. As you lower this time, dig in with your knees and with your fingerprints, press up, and come into a little bit of wiggle time in your table pose. From here, tuck your toes, blast from your shoulders into your hands to lift up into downward dog. Take a couple of breaths here. I love wiggling in downward dog, so you might try that little foot pedal out. You might also try a little tail wag up in the air. And then walk your feet forward to the front of your mat. Settle into your heels. When an inhale comes, trace your hands up your shins, come halfway. Soften with your exhale. Next inhale, stand all the way tall. Reach up as you go. Palms to touch and trace that smooth line down. Right away, swim your arms up again with inhale. Crumple through your knees, fold down, either touching to the floor, blocks, or your chair seat. Step your left foot back, but rather than stepping it all the way back to your lunge stance or your warrior stance, cap yourself at about 2/3 of the way back and spin your heel just a little bit in and down. Not all the way in and down like warrior, maybe about a 45-degree angle. Then crawl up your front leg, come to a tall stance. Straighten your front knee and bring your hands back to your hip creases. Just like earlier, we're going to focus on our hip hinge. So without rounding through your spine or flaring your chest up like gymnastics, keep that contained middle body and hinge right at your right hip. You'll know when to stop, either by the tension sensation coming up the back of your right leg, or you'll know that your low back is just stuck in that rounded position. So give yourself lots of space, lots of grace to hone in on your pyramid pose. And then once you've honed in, start to pull your front leg back as if you could drag it to the back of your mat. Maybe you feel a little bit of action coming up the back of your right thigh. Keeping your torso floating here, spread your arms out wide into that T position again. Rotate the length of your arms, turning your thumbs up. Nice and slow and steady. Swim your arms forward and then back out to T. Let's do that a couple more times. Then I want to give you the choice to pause with your arms wide or your arms forward. Whatever you're choosing, keep drawing your right hip back to make long space along the right side of your waist. One more breath here. No matter where your hands are, bring them to your hips, bend your right knee, and push to standing. Step your left foot forward. Take a moment here to be still, or to maybe shimmy your legs a little bit. Notice your breath rhythm. Catch a ride on your inhale, reach up. Soften your knees, fold down to touch. Step your right foot back 2/3 of the way, spin your heel in and down. Rise back up. Let's enter with as much care as we did on the first side. So straighten your left knee, turn your pelvis to look pretty much towards the top of your mat. Start to drag your left foot back and hinge at your hips, bringing your torso in a nice long straight line a little bit closer to horizontal. Once you've honed in on where your limit is for this side, float your arms out and then trace that little quarter circle from each shoulder, all the while turning your thumb tips up towards the ceiling. Choose where you'd like to pause with your arms, maybe T, maybe reaching forward. Intensify the wrapping back of your left hip away from your left shoulder and the pull of your left heel towards the back of your mat. One more breath here in this powerful floating pyramid pose. And then bring your hands in, bend your knee, stand up, and step your feet together. Back up to the center of your space. We're going to do a little bit of knot yoga to help us get ready for some other poses. So shift into either foot. Doesn't matter which one. Let your arms come out for balance. Now with your floating foot, start to tap in front of you and behind you. Out to your right, and then a crisscross over to the left. Let's repeat that. North, south, and then east and west. And what we're doing is just getting all the systems on board for a little bit of balance, including whatever visual input is feeling helpful, as well as all the supporting muscles in what is your standing balancing leg. You're welcome to reach a little further for these next 2 rounds, maybe challenging yourself to see how far you can reach in each direction. Whoa. When you come back together, set that floating foot down, right away shift your weight over, and we'll start second side. Just having a light little toe tap so that the majority of the time is spent with your body weight in your standing leg. Know that your standing knee can bend as much as it likes, and that your torso can sway and act as a counterbalance. Check in with the toes of your standing foot. Can they spread broadly and share your weight evenly across the breadth of your foot? One more round. And when you bring your feet back together, shake it out a little bit. Mosey on up to the top of your mat space. Set your feet in Tadasana. 3 sun breaths to recenter. Let your inhale come. Softly slow your exhale down. Natural inhale. A little bit, put the brakes on as you exhale. Last one. Soften your knees, fold down, touch, and then step back into plank. This can become a knee plank at any time. If your knees are down, back your hips up. If your knees are up, back your hips up. Pushing into either downward dog with knees up or puppy pose with knees down. Let's repeat spinal wave. Curl your tail, round your back, push forward. leveling out to a long spine. As your shoulders land over your wrists, gently lift your chin and gaze. And then tuck your chin round and push back towards puppy or dog. So same idea, whether your knees are up or down, to flow back and forth, ending with a long spine on either end, moving through center with a rounded spine. As you come forward, pause in your version of plank. In a moment, we'll lower down, so you might preemptively put your knees down. Grip tight, bend your elbows, lower your front body to the floor. Reach your arms down long by your sides. Energize your legs by pointing your toes, straightening your knees, and pressing the tops of your feet down. Press the front of your pelvis down. With your next inhale, lift your heart and lift your arms. Roll your shoulders so that your neck stays long. And keeping this little back bend in the intensity of your lower body, swim your arms out into a T position. Turn your thumbs up. Let's swim in this lower quarter circle. So arms back by your sides, thumbs in, palms to the ceiling. And then arms out to a T, thumbs up. Trace that a couple more times. And then we're going to put a real spicy cherry on top at the end here. As you swim through T, continue. Reach your arms all the way forward, thumbs up. Hoo boy, do make room for a breath. And then melt down. Maybe turning your cheek to one side or stacking your palms for a forehead pillow. Let your hips wiggle a little bit. Gather your hands on either side of your ribs. Give your shoulders a roll. Press up. Tuck your toes. Hover your knees. Maybe push to downward dog, but then walk your feet forward to the top of your mat. Settle into heels. Inhale halfway. Exhale, fold. Next inhale, stand tall, reach tall. This time, let your arms flop. We're working hard. Shift over into your left foot. Slow and steady, lift your right foot and try to step back into your lunge stance in one soft, long reach. If that doesn't happen, you can always wiggle, wiggle, wiggle your foot back. Back your left knee up over your left ankle. Swoop your arms for a pause in our high lunge. Touch fingertips. Bring your thumbs to your sternum and turn to the left. Pull your feet towards each other. Firm your bum. Reach your arms wide. Next inhale. Return through center. And then step your back foot forward. Release your hands out for balance. Shift into your right foot and take that same slow, exploratory, long step back. Back yourself up into high lunge. Take at least one breath to reach up. Gather your hands in. Put a little extra squeeze in your legs, firming up from your feet into your hips. When an exhale comes, turn to the right. And then peel your hands apart, reaching right arm back, left arm forward. Unwind once again. Step your feet together and have a little shake in your legs. Last standing pose, last opportunity for a little bit of balance. With your feet directly under your hips, peel your right heel off the ground, come to your tippy toe. Pivot on your tippy toe to point your knee out to the side. Then touch the sole of your foot to your inner ankle and touch your palms together. This is a nice sturdy tree. If you'd like to experiment with your balance, you might slide your foot up to the inside of your leg. Anywhere is good. Pick a steady point to gaze upon and take another 3 breaths here. Gently hugging leg and foot into each other, palms into each other. Slide your foot back down, release your hands. Shift weight now into your right foot, peel your left heel up, and pivot on your toes. Make contact between your palms and the sole of your foot and your leg. Noticing how it feels to get that little extra support from your left toe tips. Then you can choose if you'd like to slide your foot up. In the same gentle intensity that you're hugging in, push down into your standing leg and reach tall along your spine and out the top of your head. Easy does it. Release those little efforts. Stand back on your 2 feet. Whoo. Mosey up to the top of your mat. We'll finish with a very plain sun salutation before a little bit of floor work. Feeling into your feet. When an inhale comes, reach up. Straight away, bend down. Touch your hands. Step back to plank. Settle into plank for a breath. And then bend your elbows, lowering down. Point your toes, roll your shoulders, rise up, baby cobra. Soften back down, dig in with your knees, push up. And with your toes tucked, press to downward dog. Take a few breaths here to just be or to wiggle. And then bring your knees down to the ground. Flip over onto your back. With your knees bent. Give your upper body a chance to spread out. Maybe lifting your head and walking it back a bit. Then hover your feet off the ground and bring your hands onto the tops of your thighs. Wake up your feet, maybe spread or twinkle your toes, and find a little bit of press between your palms and your thighs. Keep the press on the left side. Reach your right limbs away from each other. Bring them back in. Press. Reach your left limbs away from each other. We're going to swim in and out like this, one side at a time. And as you go, see if you can keep as much of the back of your body strongly snuggled down into the ground as you go. So that means the back of your ribs, the back of your waist, maybe even your low back could be lengthened out and snuggled into the floor here. And you can modulate how far your limbs reach to respect that priority. End on a left limb reach. And then bring your feet down. Tuck your elbows in by your waist, bending them so that your fingertips point at the ceiling. Preemptively snuggle your shoulders a little higher to your ears and tuck them a little bit underneath your body. Start to press with your elbows in the back of your head. Press with your heels and scoop your hips up, reaching your tail to point up between your knees. As you lift your hips, pull with your heels, really finding some strong action on the back of your thighs. Continue to press with the back of your head. And then extend your elbows to straight. Press your palms to the floor. Let's try a couple of breaths in this bridge. I'm going to do a second one in a moment. Melt your spine down to the ground, untucking your arms. Reset with elbows bent. Shrug your shoulders a little bit. Dig with your heels. Dig with your elbows in the back of your head. Scoop your hips up. As you lift this time, add a feeling of hugging your thighs in towards each other. Then pull with your heels. You might try lifting your tail a little bit higher, lifting your pelvis a little bit higher, then straighten your arms. One more breath. And then lay your spine down, one piece at a time. Roll off to one side and press yourself up. We're going to finish with some really gentle movement, and it might be nice to have a blanket for this movement. I'm going to use the blanket as a very low pillow. So just a couple of easygoing folds, nothing serious. You're probably all right without a pillow if you don't have a blanket handy. Come to lay down on your left-hand side. You could be using your left arm as a part of your pillow support situation, or you could reach your left arm straight out and let your head just droop a little bit. That's fine. Tuck your knees together up in front of you and try unrounding your back. Find a little inward curve in your low back. Starting with your right palm on top of your left palm. Slide your right shoulder back towards the floor, and then open your right arm up, reaching it behind you for a twist. The back of your right hand may or may not touch the floor. Let's go back and forth a few times. Palm to palm, and then roll open. As you roll open, see if you can keep your knees parallel to each other. And let that be a limiter on how far your twist goes. And the knees staying side by side there is just a way of helping your pelvis stay stable. One more time to roll open. And then let your knees part. Scooch yourself over to lay on your right hand side. Again, if you're using your hand, your bottom arm as a pillow, when you reach your top arm, now your left arm forward, it will just reach out into space or maybe gently touch the floor. Tuck your knees up. Find that inward curve in your low back, thinking of lifting your tail a little bit. And then take your time to explore this twist. And it might feel different than your first side. You might have a different capacity to bring the back of your left hand to the ground. We'll go for about 3, 4, or 5 of these gentle twists. So there's no rush. If you're enjoying taking it slow. As you roll back onto your side or onto your back, complete the transition, come fully onto your back. You might enjoy a gentle pillow there. I'm going to get rid of mine. Keeping both knees bent, gather your right leg in towards your body. Depending on your reach, you might be going for the back of your thigh, for the front of your shin, or your pant legs. Grab on. Gently hug your right thigh deeper into your belly, guiding your knee to point out, kind of beyond your right shoulder. And take a couple of breaths here with this kind of loving compression for your right hip and the front of your belly. And you have the option to stretch your left leg out long, knowing that you can bend your knee to get your heel to the floor. On an inhale, release your right leg, gather your left leg, and exhale to squeeze it in. Find that most comfortable angle, guiding your knee a little bit wider. And take a few breaths, perhaps with your right knee still bent, foot on the floor, or with your right leg stretched out. Wait for an inhale. When it comes, release your left leg. Set both feet flat. And take a moment just to check in with how it feels to actually rest in this position with your knees bent. This is constructive rest. You might even allow your knees to fall in and rest upon one another. If you feel quite settled, I'd suggest just staying as you are. If you don't quite feel settled, you might explore stretching your legs out long for a more conventional Shavasana shape. And see about leaving your palms on the front of your body as a way of resting your arms and being in contact with yourself. Or you might try letting your arms flop right out to the left and right, palms up or down. This part of practice is just as valuable and just as important as all of the strong efforts and fine details that we were exploring. It allows your body to integrate any changes that it's starting to make, any inputs that we gave it. And it allows your mind to start filing away any learning. If it feels easeful or safe for you to close your eyes, you're welcome to close your eyes. And try letting your mind rest by anchoring your attention to the way your body is touching down to the floor and getting that support from the floor beneath you. Take another 3 breaths just quietly to yourself. No deeper than normal. Just soft little breaths. Roll yourself over to your favorite side. Moving like you've got all the time in the world. Slowly push yourself up. Thank you for joining. I hope you're feeling alive and that I get to practice with you again soon. Peace.